Adding beads to cross stitch can add so much to a design and look fabulous, but the process of attaching them can occasionally be a little bit frustrating. Now, I found a number of items that have been a huge help when beading cross stitch and made my life so much easier that I wanted to share these secret weapons with you. Hi there, Stitchy friends. I'm Kat from Catkin and Lily, bringing you all the best tips, tricks and tutorials so you can get the most joy from your stitching. I will be creating some detailed videos on how to add beads to your cross stitch, but I'm starting off with this video to share 5 tools and tips that I think will be super helpful whether you're new to beading or have some experience with it. I also have a bonus secret weapon at the end relating to bead storage, so don't miss that. First on my list is the perfect beading needle. Now, beading needles tend to be very long and very sharp, like these ones I have here. You can see just how long this needle is, one of the ones out of here. Very long and, as I say, very sharp. Now, you can often get away with using a very small regular cross stitch or tapestry needle, such as a size 28. But you may find that these might not fit through the holes of the very tiniest beads, especially with thread in the eye. So it can be really useful to have a proper beading needle. But I wasn't a huge fan of how long and how sharp these were. So when I found these, they were a little bit of a game changer. These are John James ballpoint bead embroidery needles. And you can see they're quite short. Let's take one out and I'll put it next to the long beading needle. So you can see how short it is. And although it is sharp, it's not quite as sharp as the longer beading needles. So these ones here, as you can see, are a size 10 needle and it's narrow all the way along. So it will fit through even the tiniest of beads. So I've got these are petite Mill Hill beads. And I've got one here and I'm hoping you would see that I can fit that onto the needle. And I'll spin it round for you so you can see that it does go all the way through. So I am extremely happy that I found these, and they are so much better than a long unwieldy needle, which I'm almost guaranteed to stab myself with. Number 2 is a sticky bead mat. While you're doing the beading, it will be helpful to tip your beads out of the containers so that you can easily access them. So you could use dishes or trays, such as this, or you can get some lovely divided containers to put your beads in. But the big risk here is that it would be so easy to knock them and tip beads all over the place. A sticky bead mat totally eliminates this risk and makes it super easy to see all your beads and select the one you need. There are a few brands to choose from when buying a sticky bead mat. But I've got here, this is the Tacky Bill. And I just particularly like this plastic case format because it makes it really easy to put it away with the beads safely inside. So once it's opened up, you've got 2 sections inside, both of which, I'll show you if I put my finger on, you can see they're sticky. So that means that you can take your beads and sprinkle a few on there, and then those beads are not going anywhere. I'll turn it upside down so you can see. Absolutely rock solid. And yes, I've even knocked this over while it was open and can confirm the beads stayed exactly where they were put. And when you want to use a bead, you can simply pick one up like this on your needle. Nice and easy. And when you're finished with your beading session, you can close it up and your beads are safely stored inside. Now, as I say, there are a few different brands of sticky bead mat, and there's also an alternative to this. If you're not using a sticky mat, then you can buy something called a bead nabber, which I don't have here, but it's a little ring type thing that you put on your finger and you can pick the beads up with your finger and they stay on there before threading them onto your needle. I haven't tried this because you don't really need it with the sticky bead mat. And as I say, I really love how this keeps all the beads in place. One thing I have yet to discover is how long it lasts. as I'm presuming the stickiness may come off over time, or the mat may become dirty or get fluff or other detritus stuck to it. It may be possible to refresh it with a wash, but honestly, these are not expensive, so I could just buy a new one. Number 3 is invisible thread. Now, this one is a double-edged sword because it can be a little tricky to use, but it's so worth it for adding beads with no thread showing. It's especially useful if you're adding lots of different colour beads, so you can use the same thread for all of them. And also where you're adding beads that are on fabric and not on stitching, as it really is, as the name suggests, invisible. So it gives a really professional finish to your beading. So the one I have here, this is the YLI Wonder Invisible thread, which is a nylon thread. And I've pulled some out here, but you may not even be able to see it. You might just be able to see it against the dark background. Now, there are other brands available, but I found this one to be particularly good. Number 4 is a small piece of something black. This might sound like a little bit of an odd one, but stick with me and you'll soon see why. The easiest thing to use for this is a piece of black card. You don't need a piece as large as this, I'm just using a large piece for the video. And if you happen to be wearing black trousers, they work really well for this. This is going to be a game changer when threading your needle with invisible thread, because it's much easier to do if you have something dark or black behind it. So if I put my white card on here, if I put the invisible thread on here, that's going to be very hard to find the end of it and to thread the needle. But if I'm going to leave that thread on there, take the white card away, and I hope you can see how much more visible that thread is. I can see where the end is and everything. And then when I want to thread my needle, I've made sure I've got the black behind the eye of the needle, and I can immediately see where I'm going. Now, I am aware that there are also big eye or wide eye needles that can make threading them easier, but I haven't tested those, and they do also have downsides of the thread slipping out of them and being more fragile, so they can often bend and break more easily. As you can see, all you need is a little bit of something black or very dark. Number 5 is a regular needle. Now, I've already mentioned that you can use a regular cross stitch or tapestry needle for the beading itself. But the main reason I make sure I keep one on hand is to help untie my thread when I've reached the end. I've found that it really helps to tie the invisible thread onto the needle to stop it sliding out all the time. Now, this will come undone occasionally when you really don't want it to, but when it comes time to actually undo it, that's when I find that it usually won't budge. So I find that having a regular needle on hand can help to push into the thread at the end, to sort of push into that knot and to untie it. It's still not very easy, and you might find that it's easier to potentially use scissors to snip it, but there we go. I've managed to use that regular needle just to poke into the knot to help to untangle it. I always worry a little that if I'm going to use scissors to try and snip the thread off, that it might damage the needle. That's all my secret weapons for beading, but I did say I had a bonus tip about storing your beads. Now, you can store your beads just in the packets that they come in, but I think it can be hard to see what you have or find a specific number. So I have found this storage container, which I think is fabulous. These are Art Dot stackable storage containers, which I bought on Amazon, and I will pop a link to this in the description. So this set has 4 drawers. Let me pop this to the side and I'll show you the drawers. So each drawer has lots of these tiny little containers. There's actually 35 in here, all lined up. And each little container has it's a little see-through container with a little flip lid on the top. Now, these were actually created for diamond painting, but I figured they would work perfectly well for beads. So in case you're interested, I'll just show you how the little containers work. First of all, you have to take the little top section off. You've got a little plastic funnel which comes flat, and then you can just poke that out so that it makes a funnel shape. You've got a square end, so I find you can just pop that, collapse my funnel, into the container like so. So I've got that just wedged in at the top. You can take your beads, very carefully open them because they do tend to ping at this point. I like to hold that, tip them all in, and they're now all in the container, and I can pop the lid back on again. And then they provide little labels that you can write the numbers on, and you can stick the little label on the top there so that you know what they are. Now, of course, there are probably lots of other tiny storage containers that you could use for bead storage, but I just found these ones particularly useful, so I wanted to share that with you. I hope with all these tools and tips, you found something to make beading a little bit easier. These handy little accessories have transformed my beading experience, but I'm sure there are some other options out there as well. So do let me know any other secret weapons that you may have come across. If you found this video helpful, then I'd be delighted if you would give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss those upcoming videos with more on this topic of beading, plus lots of other stitchy tips and tutorials. Thank you so much for watching, and happy stitching!